Good morning, everybody. I do want to welcome you to our second service. Reverend Mary Jo was wonderful first service, as she always is, so be sure and leave with the, give her a hand. And that's great. Reverend Mary Jo. I do want to mention that Kathy has great CDs. Please take one home with you. And that is something you will celebrate. Foxy back here was telling me they spent all day yesterday listening to your music, just getting ready for today. Everyone, let's all join together and know that our hearts and spiritual mind treatments go out to all the people in Japan and that experience they're moving through as they search and find their loved ones and their dear friends, and let us know that they are standing together to rebuild their lives, and we stand with them in consciousness and in love as they move through this experience, as they did with us when we've been through similar events. Everyone say, unearth the excellent. Unearth the excellent. Now, isn't that what we do in religious science? Aren't we constantly unearthing the excellence? See, 2,000 years ago, somebody made a very interesting challenge to us, and that is to stop conforming to the world and do what? Say it with me. Renew yourself how? By what? The renewing of your mind. Be not conformed to the world, what? Do what? Find something within you and renew your self-definition. Renew your expectancy. Renew your unfoldment in this thing called life in a positive way. It was Albert Einstein who said, before God, we are all equally wise and equally foolish. And that's true, because it is everywhere at once. I want to share with you our sister teaching in New Thought is Seishi Noye. Seishi Noye was founded in 1930 by Dr. Miyamoto Taniguchi. Dr. Taniguchi started this and wanted to come to the United States and study with Dr. Holmes, Dr. Fenwick Holmes, Dr. Ernest Holmes. The war broke out and he was captured by the Chinese. They thought he was a spy and they threw him into a prison. He got out in 1947. He was one of the last people left there, and there was a whole line of people going from his cell out to the front of the prison. They were lined up going through, and guess what they were receiving? Spiritual mind treatment. He returned to Japan. He contacted the Holmes brothers, and my teacher, Dr. Fenwick Holmes, joined with him, and they moved Seishi Noye forward. In 1947 is when it really started in the way it is now. And I absolutely celebrate all of the work that's going on in Japan in the name of religious science, because it's religious science in Japan. Now, the difference is we may have 200,000 people in the United States who practice religious science or know about it. In Japan, they have 2 million followers of this teaching. How many are aware of that? Okay, it's just great. And it is wonderful. Dr. Taniguchi, I have the pleasure and the privilege of meeting him and spending some time with him. I couldn't understand anything he was saying, but we had a good interpreter. It was great. But I, of course, could feel his consciousness and his love. It was my friend Reverend Ike, and many of you know Reverend Ike helped me start this church 36 years ago when he came here to do a seminar for me and attracted a whole lot of people, and we had the opportunity to tell them we are in Fremont. You were here when Ike was here, weren't you? Anyhow, Ike came out, and I love what Ike said. You know, Ike passed on to the next experience recently, and I truly celebrate him and our friendship. He said, you know, once you get your prayer life in order, the rest of your life will never be the same. When you get your prayer life in order. When you get your prayer life in order in relationship to not getting down on your knees and begging something up in the sky to change its mind about you, but to stand tall and proud and affirm something new, not based in the world, but based on a higher concept, and then give birth to the beautiful in your life as your life beginning in your mind and heart. As that unfolds in your life, then you find yourself seeing life in a correct way. This is St. Patty's weekend. Hey, that is it. And for all of you who understand this, Namasima kon na korna horna win win. Whatever that means. All right. Hey, you know, there was a ventriloquist A ventriloquist was telling Irish jokes in an Irish bar. And it was in Dublin, and not here, but over there. And all of a sudden, O'Leary walked in. O'Leary was not pleased with what he was hearing. He was an irate Irishman, and he stood up and he started shouting, "You're making out that we're all dumb and stupid? I ought to punch you in the nose." The ventriloquist said, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to that wooden thing sitting on your lap there." Talking to the little guy. Ah, yes. Now, how many have done that with your own life? You get upset with the wrong thing. You get upset with confusion. Now, you get upset with other people's actions without doing what? Understanding that the upset itself is not doing anything to them. Who's it wiping out? The one who's upset. See, if we can ask ourselves, how do I want to spend my day? I remember I was really upset once. You've heard me tell this story. I walked in, Dr. Fenwick Holmes was there. He says, "You need to let this go." I said, "Why?" He said, "Do you want to be well tonight? You want to be well tonight? How many want to be well tonight?" Okay, now it starts with what? Everybody say harmony. Harmony. In action. That knows what to do. Knows how to do it. As me. See, harmony is not somewhere other than your next idea. Peace is not anywhere other than your next idea. That's this wonderful song we just sang. You are the face of God. Peace is the face of God. Joy is the face of God. Love is the face of God. So our challenge is to do what? Wake up and jumpstart the life. The life what? The life we always had in mind. How many had a life in mind and you haven't quite developed it yet? Okay. How many had a life in mind that you let the world talk you out of? How many had a life in mind that you let something around you become more important than the dream? We've been affirming here for 36 years. Say it with me. All my dreams are waiting for me to come true. They do so now. See, they do so now if you let go and let it happen. Because you are the avenue through which the first principle that we talk about all the time here, which is the thing itself, is the realization that there is a fundamental relationship between you and this thing called life, and that relationship is you are this thing called life in the moment, always have been, always will be. You're an idea in the mind of God that must always express as form, as experience, and there's nothing you cannot conceive, you cannot achieve if you let go and know the conceiving idea is good enough to be true. You see, you couldn't have this divine urge within you to conceive a greater life if it wasn't possible to do it. And don't we give thanks for people who gave birth to the idea that we can have a greater life, the idea that we can find answers instead of problems, the idea that there is something wonderful happening. I was thinking anytime I see a disaster, and again, I've shared this before, but when I was about 17 years old, a tornado. I was driving from Dallas, Texas to Denton, Texas. There was a tornado in front of me. I turned around and to go back to Dallas, there was a tornado in front of me. It hit the home of a friend of our family's. I love them. We grew up with them. I knew that it hit in that part of Dallas, and I drove there, and there was the family standing there in the front yard, and their home was gone. It was leveled. And I started crying in the car. Oh my God, their beautiful home's gone. And the mother was standing there, and I walked up and I said, "What are you going to do?" And she looked at me and she says, "We're going to pick up the first piece. We're going to start cleaning up." You see, if they just stood there and whined about it, it would still be a mess. If they just stood there and just talked about how terrible it was, it must be God's will, or whatever other nonsense they come up with. Listen, if you don't want a tornado to hit your home, don't build one in Dallas. How many know you're nodding your head back here? You know what I'm talking about. Now, everybody say the first principle, fundamental to understanding of spiritual science is that we are surrounded by an infinite intelligence that made us out of itself. So how much of it is available to you and me? All of it. All of it. What the great have done, you can do. What the great have thought, you can think. What the great have understood, you can understand. I think one of the greatest things that happened to me when I found religious science is when my teachers started pointing out to me, I am greater than I think I am. I'm smarter than I think I am. I have more talent than I think I have. I have more abilities than I think I have. I have more energy than I think I have. I have more everything that I desire if I tap into it and give birth to it as my life experience. In Genesis 1:31 it says, "And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good." Everybody say, the universe has never changed its mind about that. So if you say I am, or you are, and you put something negative after it, all you're doing is coming up with a world opinion. Hadn't got anything to do with truth. Hadn't got anything to do with truth about you or anybody else. Okay? But you see, if you believe it, it'll become your fact, and that fact will appear in your life, and that will become an obstacle to you. But if it does, then you can wake up if you take class. And this is why it's so important to take classes. This is why in religious science, Dr. Holmes pointed out that there's a lot of people who know what we teach and do it automatically, but those of us who don't know how, if we want to, we can learn. If we can learn. The challenge we have over and over again is to know, as Dr. Holmes says on page 39 of the Science of Mind textbooks, be still. We must instill into our mind the fundamental proposition that good is without bounds. Okay. Right, Malachi. Malachi knows that. I see, Malachi knows that, and as Malachi moves forward in his life, the challenge he's going to have is when the world tries to talk him out of it. See, Malachi right now is in what? He's in a position where he is doing what? He's experiencing unlimited possibility, and he is in charge, right? All children are in charge. Now the challenge again we have is to know that there is something wonderful waiting to happen by means of us if we let go and let it happen. There's something wonderful ready to unfold. There's something wonderful ready to do what it knows how to do. Our natural state is health. Our natural state is harmony. Our natural state is uneventful separation, uneventful manipulation, uneventful experience that we have gone through in the past that didn't produce anything but confusion, doubt, and fear, and all of a sudden we grow out of that, mature, and what happens? Something wonderful begins to unfold as possibility. We become one with the possibility and then give birth to it as experience. Everybody's doing it. Emerson said, and we are having a great Emerson class on Monday night, and it's just absolutely wonderful to re-explore the genius of Ralph Waldo Emerson. And what he pointed out to all of us is we are what we think about all day long. Now, Dr. Holmes said it, and again, this is basic to our teaching. If we are what we think about all day long, we should think about what we think about, because your life is the result of your thinking. Remember, as we talked about last week, the beauty of religious science is what? It opens us up to realize that we can separate ourselves by way of illusion by thinking we're not part of our experience. We find religious science, and what happens? We begin to heal that, and we realize we are our experience. We're not separated from it. That's an illusion. What's in front of you is your thinking becoming form. If you don't like it, rethink it, and stop blaming it on anybody. How many found out that's true and you're now saving a whole lot of time? Okay, see, don't waste your time trying to find something to blame your life on. Because if you do, all you want to do is maintain status quo. If you want to improve it out here, you improve it where? Everybody say, if I want to quiet the outer storm, I quiet the inner storm. You got it? See, that's how we allow ourselves to do what? Unearth ourselves. To begin to understand, as the great philosopher Will Durant said, he said, let us understand optimism to mean a belief